Okay, excuse me. Wow, what a way to start. Purpose of this video is to show you how to do Unit 1, Activity 8, and this is Part B. So if you haven't watched Part A yet, or you need help with the worksheet part of this assignment, that's in Part A. Part B is just to briefly show you how to do the second part, which is the adjusting entries and closing entries in the general journal. So I'm going to try to be as concise as possible on this and not ramble on and keep the video short, hopefully. So in part A, you worked with the worksheet, which looks like this. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. And I showed you how to put in the first two transactions. So that came down here. So we did these two together on the worksheet. And then I left it there and said, you guys can figure out how to do the rest of the worksheet yourselves. So hopefully you have been able to do that. One note on that, which I forgot to mention on part A, but it is important, which is you not only have to load in carry the balances across the worksheet for the ones that come from the transaction list here. You also need to carry over the balances of accounts that haven't been affected by an adjustment. So for example, the bank account. The bank account, I don't believe, has any sort of adjustment made to it. So you just carry over the numbers into the other sections of the worksheets that are applicable to it. So in the adjusted trial balance, nothing's happened, so there is no adjustment there. So we just put in the number that was already there. Probably the fastest way to do this would be to just grab these numbers, copy and paste them into this part. This would be before you've done the worksheet. If you've already done it, then you don't want to do that because it'll wipe out all the work you've done. But if you haven't started it yet, the easiest way would just be to copy and paste it into these sections and then change the numbers for the accounts that have been adjusted. But anyway, so your worksheet should look a lot fuller than mine, but basically this is what it looks like somewhat when you'll be done with it. So basically what I'm trying to say is you need to move the balances across the worksheet into their applicable sections, whether they were adjusted or not. Okay. The numbers won't change if there were no adjustments. The numbers will change over here on the right hand side if you've made adjustments. Okay, hopefully that doesn't confuse things, but anyway. All right, so we've got that. Now the question is, what's the second half of this assignment? Once I've got the worksheet done, what else do I need to do? And so down here at the bottom of the assignment, it asks you to record the adjusting entries and closing entries in the general journal. So basically, it's just like the assignments that you did previous to this, the adjusting journal entries and the closing journal entries that you did before this. So you need to go to the assignment page and download the template for the general journal, which looks like this when you open it. And you can do the closing entry, the adjusting entries and the closing entries on the same page if you'd like, or if you'd like to do it on another page, you can just copy and paste the template over into another page of the workbook, whatever you want to do. Personally, I'm going to do it on the same page. So I'm just going to make sure that I have it labeled. And I'm just going to make that bold and maybe a little bit bigger, like 12 point instead of 10 point, and maybe just center it. Okay, so I know that it's sort of like a title section there. Why isn't that centering? All right, so there's the adjusting entries will be under here, and then I need to skip down I don't know, I'm going to call it 25 lines, and I'll just put in the closing entries. Now, I'm sure in a real accounting book, this probably wouldn't be, or accounting journal, this would not be proper, and you probably would be chastised for it. But for our purposes and for this exercise, it's just easier to put it all on one page. So for admitting purposes and for me marking it and for you guys inputting and all that sort of stuff. But I doubt in a real journal you would put adjusting entries and closing entries in like this. Just a disclaimer. Okay, so we got that set up. You want to do your adjusting entries first and then your closing entries, which of course makes sense. Closing entries being the last thing that you want to do, right? Okay, so what goes into our adjusting entries? This is just coming from our transactions here. And remember that we already went through the whole thought process of, what accounts these are affecting, how much, whether they're debits or credits. We've already thought about all of that. So really this part B of this assignment is not that difficult. It's just transferring information from one form or one kind of accounting instrument or accounting statement to another. Okay, number one, prepaid insurance is a 1-year policy purchased on November 1st, 2014. So really what we need to do is go to the workbook, identify where we recorded that information. So we have our prepaid insurance line here, right? And so our adjustment was a credit of $2,575 to the prepaid insurance account. And then our other account that was affected by this transaction was the insurance expense account, which we have down here. And that on our adjustment was 2,575 debit. So that's going to be our first entry on the journal. Insurance expense, debit, $2,575. So let's open up my journal. Put this in here. Our date is not December. I forget what day it is. Okay, so this fiscal year ends April 30th, 2015. So we're going to put in April 30 for our date. And our insurance expense is our debit for this transaction. And the number I'm already forgetting was 2,575. So that goes there. And then we just got to load in our credit, which was our prepaid insurance. And we want to indent that because it is the credit, right? So got to make sure I hit my little indent button here, but things got to be bigger. There we go. And we'll put in that same amount, 2,575. And then on the third line, we just need to have a little description as to what was going on there. Recording 6 months of used up prepaid insurance. I'm sure there's probably a better way of saying that, but I think that gets across what we're doing here. Okay, so that would be the adjusting entry and the journal for that one. So like I said, it's nothing groundbreaking. You guys have done this in the past. You did it in grade 11. You did it in the review assignment a couple of assignments ago. So that's there for you. The second one would be our, from our second transaction. This is the one that had to do with supplies. So we go to our workbook, locate the supplies, right? So what did we do on that adjustment? It was a credit for $3,310 to the supply account. And then down here, we had the supply expense, which was a debit for that same amount, $3,310. So that's what we're going to load into our journal first, since that's the debit. I don't have to put April again. It's understood that it's April. If it bleeds into a new month, you just put the new month. So April, May would be the next one. So if there was a May account, put that, but you don't need it. All right, supplies expense. That's our debit. And that is $3,310. Then we've got our supplies account, the asset account. And then we want to indent that because it's the credit. We want to put that number in again. And there it is. So, oh, and sorry, our description amount of supplies used. I forget what if it was since the last count. I don't know if we have a date for that. So since last audit, maybe amount of supplies used since last adjustment. I'll put adjustment. Again, the descriptions are not necessarily my strong suit, but anyway. Okay, so that's there. And then as you guys do your transaction and load them into the worksheet, for the rest of these transactions, you can then do the adjusting journal entry for them. So that's how you do that. And then underneath that, we have our closing entries. And then the closing entries are just like you did in the previous assignment to this, assignment number 7, I believe, from unit 1. And just remember, you're closing your revenue accounts, you're closing your expense accounts, you're closing the drawings accounts. And so you have to go back, and once you've got your worksheet all filled out, you'll just be grabbing the accounts that fit those descriptions. So on this one, I think there's only one revenue account, and it is the consulting fees account. A good tip off of a revenue account is like the word fees or the word, obviously, revenue, earned, things like that. Those tip off the fact that it's a revenue account. But in this one, we've just got the one. So to close that, you would just do the opposite of whatever type of account it is. So this is a revenue account, so it holds a credit balance. So to empty that or to close it, you would do a journal entry where you debit that amount to the consulting fees account, and you would credit it to the revenue and expense summary, right? Which is like that temporary account that goes away as soon as you're done with all your closing. If you need a refresher on how to do that, go back to the closing assignment. Okay, but that's what you do down here. All right. So as I say, you'll close your revenue account, your expense account, and your drawings account. If you need help with that part, talk to me in class, or like I say, go brush up in the last assignment that we did. All right. So that's how you do this, guys. When you submit it, you'll submit the worksheet and you'll submit this general journal to get full marks. All right. I hope that helped. I don't know if I achieved my goal of being short with this, but hopefully it's less than 30 minutes. All right. See you later, guys.